Hi, and welcome to today's yin practice. Today's yin practice will focus a lot on the upper body and opening into the shoulders, and also doing more heart opening poses. We're going to get started right away, so please join me on your mat and we'll all come into a child's pose. And of course, as we move through class today, it's helpful to have props ready and available next to you, so you may want to have blocks or a bolster. In our child's pose, let's bring the big toes together, separate the knees widely, and we'll sink the hips back. From here, let's just walk the arms out in front of us nice and long and settle down to bring your forehead down to the mat. Settling in here in our child's pose just to begin the class. The hips don't need to reach the heels. You just want them to feel nice and heavy. And if you want a little support, you could always have a blanket between the heels and the tailbone and push back on the blanket. But right now we're just going to settle in and prepare to work deeply into all of those nooks and crannies that maybe we don't give awareness to as we should. The special part about yin yoga is the awareness that we have throughout the practice and the attention that we have with our breath. Using that breath to help keep us in the pose and to keep us within the present moment. As you work throughout class today, remember that we just want to have normal breath. No need to hold or practice any special breath like you would maybe in a vinyasa flow. Today we just observe the breath, our natural state. From your child's pose, we're going to push up and come into a tabletop position. Your tabletop, we're just going to pause here for a moment to set up in alignment so that our hips are directly above the knees. That nice straight up angle of the thighs. And just to start with, the wrists are going to be directly underneath the shoulders. We will start to move slowly into our puppy pose or melting heart in yin. For your puppy pose, we're going to keep the hips and the knees right where they're at, with the knees separated about hip width apart, and then walk the arms out in front of you nice and long and take either the forehead to the mat, or you can also draw the chin to the mat. That is much deeper. Also, you can tell I'm up on my fingertips. You don't have to be raised up on your fingertips. Your arms and your forearms can be nice and flat on the mat. I'm going to stay up on my fingertips just so I have a little space between the mic and the mat, and so you don't get a little strange sound there. But whatever version you take, settle in. Our very first heart opener of this sequence. Also a really lovely opener into the shoulders. As always in yin, we have time in our poses to settle, to find our version, set up the props, come into your edge, however deeply it works for you. But I encourage you, once you find your positioning, once you place that leg, resolve to not move it. Find your stillness. Once your arms have been placed, allow them just to stay in their position. And once you have found ease in your pose, maybe your eyes close, and then resolve to keep them closed for the remainder of the pose. To come out of your melting heart, we're going to walk our forearms back, allow the hips to shift back until we're back into our child's pose. You can bring the knees out a little wider again, so you're in a wide-legged child's pose. This time forehead to the mat, but let's let the arms go alongside the body and take a little rest into the shoulders. Arms alongside ourselves, and then we just let the shoulders spread wide and across the back. Take a nice deep breath in. Exhale it out. Staying in the child's pose, keeping the lower body where it's at. We'll take the arms out in front of us once more. This time, let's walk the hands over towards the left for a nice lateral side stretch. You're going to feel this into the right side body. We'll stay here for a couple of minutes. You can rest the head, the forehead to the mat, maybe the right side of the head onto the right arm. But focus on keeping that right hip glued onto the mat. If you do that, you'll feel an even greater effect into the right side body, alongside those right ribs, all the way up on the outside of that right shoulder. Take your inhales and set it alongside that body. Seek out any tension and free it with your breath. Slowly we'll come back through center. And then we'll walk the arms over towards the right side. This time think of keeping the left hip grounded, reaching out with that left hand, stretching out into the left side body. And breathe. Check in to make sure that you're not holding on to the breath. You're allowing yourself to let go, to find more freedom and movement. And then slowly let's return back to center. From your child's pose, we're going to snake our bodies onto the mat so that we come onto our bellies. And then set up for Sphinx pose. Sphinx is probably my all-time favorite poses, whether it's yin or vinyasa. This is so comforting. But let's make sure that we're set up for success and have the elbows just slightly in front of the shoulders. So we're making some space. The forearms are at just a slight diagonal. Fingertips are approximately pointing to the top two corners of the mat. And then your lower back will love you if you open up those legs a little bit and have the feet separated, giving yourself some space within the low back. And from here, we'll hold our Sphinx pose and think about keeping that sternum, the center of your chest, still lifting, almost gazing up and forward. No need to draw your neck back. Just keep your neck in a nice neutral position so it's nice, smooth. And then your eyes can either stay open, or if you feel the freedom in closing your eyes, you can do so. Taking a quick awareness check. Are you tightening in any areas of the body? Do you feel the glutes gripping or the quads creating tension? Allow those areas to relax. As those areas relax, you may find more ease into the lower back in this posture. And for those of you who want to deepen the back bend, you are more than welcome to come into seal by coming onto the fingertips and pushing into the hands, straightening out the elbows and coming to seal pose. Taking the hands closer to the body, of course, will deepen the back bend. If you would like a happy medium between Sphinx and seal, you could take a pillow or a bolster and bring it right underneath the lower ribs for a nice supported back bend. It'll deepen your Sphinx just slightly, and it'll also take a little effort out of the arms because, of course, if you're up in seal, you're going to have a lot more effort into your arms and upper body. Plus, seal pose can be quite deep. And if you do struggle with back pain or any issues, you may want to keep it more shallow to protect those areas. Build up strength first, and over time, you may be able to deepen. If you were up in seal pose, slowly lower yourself down to Sphinx. If you were using a bolster underneath the rib cage, please set that aside so it's just still within reach, but just out of the way for the next movement. We're going to come into broken wing pose. And broken wing is an amazing shoulder opener. You have an option, of course, from taking your arm to a goalpost shape or having it straight out to a T shape. Whatever suits you best. Please try both. See where you feel the best stretch. I'm going to, for lack of space and also because I love cactus shape, I'm going to take my right arm into a cactus shape and set the right side of my face onto the mat. From here, my left hand will go underneath my left shoulder, and I'm going to start to roll onto the outer edge of my right hip. Maybe the left foot comes behind you, and maybe not. You can adjust how intense that pose is by pressing more into the mat with the left hand and really opening up into that right shoulder. Taking these moments to find our time and space in all of these poses is so important for our parasympathetic nervous system. Giving ourselves that time to value the time to rest and digest and to recover within our bodies. It's a wonderful thing for our muscles to learn and our nerves, obviously, so that the nerves can tell the muscles, hey, it's time and safe to release and to let go. Most of us spend a lot of our workouts working very hard and intensely, want to break a sweat, of course. It feels good, but we do need some recovery time. And yin can be a really wonderful part of your program to incorporate as your recovery time. On the next inhale, let's go ahead and release that stretch from the right arm. You're probably going to feel things start to move back into that right shoulder. Take the left hand underneath your forehead and then take the forehead just to the back of the left hand. Let's just bring the right arm alongside the right side body and rest it there just for a moment. That was a pretty deep stretch. We'll take one more breath here. And when you're all set, we're going to choose our shape for our left arm. Usually you'll want to try to do the same shape on each side. Again, I'm going to choose cactus for my left shoulder. Come onto the left side of my face. Roll onto the outside of the left hip. Maybe bring the right foot behind me. And then adjust how much leverage I use by pushing into that mat with the right hand. A little more, a little less. Whatever you can tolerate without creating any pain. Slowly start to come out of this twisted shoulder opener. This time bringing the right hand underneath the forehead, and then the left arm can go beside the body. And just relax the shoulder. And then when you're ready, we'll take both of the hands underneath the shoulders. We're going to push back, open up the knees into a wide-legged child's pose. Once more, big toes come to touch. This time as we lower back, we're going to extend the arms out long, forehead down onto the mat, and then bend the elbows, bring the hands together in prayer pose, and just take them back behind the head. in this version of child's pose, we're going to make it a little bit more active. So we're going to, from our bent elbow position, we're going to push the elbows into the mat. And as you do so, feel that activation it creates into the shoulder girdle. Maybe you also feel yourself automatically starting to draw the navel up and in. We're going to push the elbows into the mat for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. You can release the arms down, and from your child's pose, start to walk the hands back, and we'll come into an upright seated position. From here, let's just spin ourselves around, and we'll take a seated butterfly position. So find your comfortable space on the mat. Let's take a little bit wider butterfly than we would normally. So bringing the soles of the feet together, let's have a nice large diamond shape. So the feet are a little further from you than you would probably have in your normal butterfly. Sitting up nice and tall, take a nice breath in. And then as you exhale, let's just start to lean forward, starting out with the back nice and straight. And then as we get a little bit further, as we reach even further forward, the back starts to curl over and the head hangs nice and heavy. Just let the back of the neck be long. And then continue to breathe. Just taking a couple of minutes to reverse our heart openers with this variation on a forward fold. Remember, we are doing ourselves a great service by finding our stillness and remaining in these poses for 2 to 5 minutes. However long we're here, we have lots of time, lots of space to settle in. You may feel yourself sink lower and lower without even realizing it. Maybe open the eyes a little bit and check in. Maybe you've inched a little bit more closely towards the mat and you didn't even notice. We're going to start to rise up from our butterfly pose and push the hands into the mat so we can lift our torso back to an upright position. For our last pose of this sequence, we're actually going to close out in a supported fish pose. So you may need 1 or 2 blocks or maybe a bolster, but we want to have the upper portion of the back supported and lifted. So if you're using a block, you want to have the block kind of in between the shoulder blades. It might take a little playing around with. And then the head, you have freedom to allow the head to drape over the top of the block and rest onto the mat. This could be a lot for your neck, or even just this great opening on the throat. It may not be the most comfortable for you. So if it's too much, go ahead and grab another block and use that to support the head and stay lifted, or a pillow would be nice as well, or even a bolster. And from here, the arms can come out at a diagonal with the palms facing up, just like you would in Shavasana. Your legs can be extended out long. If that's too much on you, you could always have the soles of the feet on the mat, and then extra protection for the low back would be to keep the knees touching and draw them in towards center. Whatever shape suits you best. Again, we have a couple minutes as we close out our sequence and start to settle into this version of supported fish that we will use as our Shavasana in today's class. These last couple of minutes, again, just feeling out the breath, noticing how it travels through the body, warming the nostrils as it enters the body, travels down the throat and expands throughout the lungs, filling the capacity of the lungs until you release on the exhale and empty out the air completely. Or maybe you still have shallow breath, and that's fine. It's just paying attention to how our breath moves in the body. With practice, you may notice your breath start to change as you do more yin yoga and more breath work. Your resting breath may start to change, growing naturally more deeper, more longer, and more relaxed. And just as we would in Shavasana, you can, of course, stay here and let the video play out. If you're ready to wake up the body, go ahead and point and flex the feet. Maybe roll out the ankles from left to right. And then the hands, you can start to draw the fingers in, perhaps making a fist, feeling the muscles activate into the forearms, waking up the body, feeling the legs start to awaken. And then to come out of your fish pose safely, you can draw the feet in, place the soles of the feet to the mat if they weren't there already, and then the forearms can place down, press firmly into the mat, pushing the elbows in, and start to walk the torso upright. We'll make our way to an easy seated position at the center of our mats. Crossing one leg in front of the other. And then let's lift the arms up to the sky with a great inhale. Take the palms together as we draw them through heart center. Thank you for joining me on this short shoulder opening, heart opening yin practice. I hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to leave a comment below. I love hearing any suggestions that you may have. And be sure to hit that like button and subscribe so that you get notifications for this and poses every single week, actually full practices every single week. Thanks for being here. I hope you have a great day. Make it a good one. Bye.